Welcome to Teams Tuesday, a podcast about mastering the best about what other people have already figured out. Teams Tuesday focuses on insights and lessons that never expire. You will walk away from every episode with actionable insights that help you get better results and be more productive.
This was about as bizarre and easy as it gets.
The client just couldn't make up their mind.
I feel like we had top.
Went from a project of 20 weeks to just 2.
The DevOps was a cultural shift.
This is Teams Tuesday with your host, Peter Ward.
Welcome to Teams Tuesday, and this is the first Teams Tuesday of the year 2024. I'm the host, Peter Ward from New York City. We've got a great guest here, Sarah Oswald from Colorado. Now, we've just had a lot of snow here in New York. What's the temperature like where you are?
It is about -7 right now, which is not normal for us.
Okay. But you expect it to be colder or warmer?
It should be warmer. Yeah, we don't normally get bad temperatures like this. It's very rare, and for 5 days in a row, it's been ridiculously cold. So I don't go outside.
Okay, all right. So I know we've met on the SharePoint speaking circuit on collaboration days and SharePoint Saturdays and everything else, which is all good stuff. Okay, so just very quickly, briefly about yourself. What was your first version of SharePoint that you broke ground on?
It wasn't even SharePoint yet. It was called Content Management Server back in like 2010, 2011.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that's before they merged it. Yes, you had SharePoint 2003 and then Content Server as well. Yes.
Yep. It was basically a nonprofit here asked me to help them, so I had to learn it so I could teach it to them. And I didn't even know it yet because it was kind of not a mainstream thing before Microsoft, acquired it and rebranded it and all of that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do remember that front. Okay. And so with that being said, your Content Server, that was about 2010. And yeah. I'm assuming, what was your last challenging job in the SharePoint world?
I think we had a huge migration project where we had to move over 6,000 sites from one multi-billion-dollar company that acquired another multi-billion-dollar company, and just trying to track all of those sites and keep track of where they were. And of course, you can't move that overnight. So we moved them, and then there were incrementals that had to be done to keep them up to date. And people that had logins over here and no logins over here and vice versa. And it was just, very frustrating.
Oh yeah, I know. I went there. What your typical migration tools you use?
I like ShareGate. It's one of my favorite ones. Yeah, it's been probably the easiest one to pick up, and a lot of the features that if somebody tries to move stuff themselves, then it timestamps them as the author and the person who created that document at that time. And using the migration tools that help you to preserve the integrity of the data that you're moving is essential, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're I wouldn't say we're big SharePoint people, but that's our migration tool of choice for promoting and moving content around. It's affordable, it's easy to use as well on that front. Yeah. In terms of M365, are you doing a lot of stuff from on-prem into the cloud these days?
Yeah, most things are moving to the cloud, especially after pandemic. People are realizing on-prem just doesn't cut it when you've got a VPN in and you're having to use, in a lot of cases, that person's bandwidth doesn't really work. And I think it's the biggest push. Obviously, Microsoft said that they experienced 10 times the amount of growth. What they expected in 10 years, they'd happen in 10 months because of all of that. So yeah.
Well, yeah, the best plans don't sort of work out on that front. What's your favorite SharePoint or my M365 tool?
It's hands down, it's got to be OneNote. OneNote is like wonder tool. I use it for everything: tracking stuff, saving stuff, archiving emails. All those things that people don't think about. It basically is a database, and it's more searchable than a lot of the tools people use.
Okay, this sort of leads a little bit into your presentation about tracking tasks on Planner. Like, I've often seen people use OneNote as a project manager tracker tool myself. It runs out of gas quite quickly for that, I find.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great project management tool. Use the best tool for the job, but it definitely for meeting notes around the project, but tracking the tasks and all of that, that's not the tool for the job, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I hear you on that front. All right, so you're going to be doing a demo, okay, and about with planning the tasks, centralized tasks with to-do list, which has come a long way in recent years, I would say, on that front. On that, so do you want to get ready for showtime?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. I love your virtual background, by the way.
Thanks. I made that. It's kind of like the comedy corner, they have the little neon sign behind it.
Yeah, like a comedy show. Yes. Okay. Share the screen. Loading up.
Okay. I was waiting for the cue. I thought you were ready. For some reason, my PowerPoint won't go into mode. 1 second. All right. So today's topic, or hopefully the tips and tricks that are going to help you, are managing tasks with Planner and To Do. And I'm Sherry Oswald. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and a Microsoft Office Specialist Master. So I focus on productivity. If you want to reach out to me on social media, I have LinkedIn, I have Twitter, or now known as X or whatever they're calling it, Facebook. And if you just reach out to me, they call me Shortcut Sherry. So if you like keyboard shortcuts and you like easier ways to do things, that's kind of my focus. So feel free to reach out. But I like to focus all of my content on a demo, because otherwise, talking to slides is really not what helps people. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I know what you mean. People want to see, people want to hear the music, not see it.
Exactly. Like they want to get their hands on it and get their hands dirty and things. So Microsoft Planner, I think, is one of the tools that people don't use as often or as well as they should be. I do want to give people caution that everybody's like, oh, I want to use this. After I show them this demo, they're usually like, I want to use this for my own personal stuff. And Microsoft, it's not there yet. They keep talking about it. In fact, they've been talking about it since, I think, 2019, making it a personal plan, which they're calling a roster plan. That's not available yet. So just a little caution. Planner is meant to be a collaborative tool with people. And when you create a plan, it creates a lot of things in the background, like a SharePoint site, an Office 365 group, a email address in the address book. So if I want to create a plan called Sherry Stuff, because it's for me, then there's actually an email that's sherrystuff@contoso.com, whatever your company's name is.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware, this is supposed to be a collaborative tool, not a personal tool. So Peter, are you using Planner? Do you use Planner much?
We actually do use Planner. So we actually do use Planner. There's a few things which we like about Planner and we don't like Planner. So we migrated a lot of tasks from Planner from Monday.com. Are you familiar with Monday.com?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, into Planner. And Monday.com, I can see what it does. One of the things which the complaint we heard a bit was like, if I assign you a task, can I hit reply and put a comment on it, and it goes into the commentary of the Planner task?
Okay. Yeah. So that's one of the top 7 tips for that too. Did you know Planner does that too?
Is that new? I did not know on that. Okay. I don't know if that's recent or the way we have it set up, but yes.
Very cool. Okay. So if you haven't seen Planner before, I always kind of explain it as if you had a whiteboard and somebody drew vertical lanes with a Sharpie marker with different categories or phases of the project or work streams or whatever those vertical phases might be. Then you create little sticky notes and you put them on that planner board, on that whiteboard, and be able to move them between those vertical lanes. And I actually have one for my speaking events, Peter, like pro tip, if you want to. We were just talking before we went live about, all the speaking events and like which ones we have going on right now. And this is how I track them, because it's like which ones have had the dates announced and which ones have call for speakers and then which ones have I submitted to, and it kind of follows that path. So that's kind of how I track them. But the intent is that your plan has either work streams or buckets, and in this case, they've got a project plan for some development that they have an engineering phase, a manufacturing phase, and a launch phase. And then each one of your tasks has these cards. So these cards are available for tracking each task. And, a couple of years ago, by high demand, they finally added the checklist. So they're like subtasks or the things that you need to get done within that task. So the high level things are like, here's the bucket that it's in, the progress. But I think some of the best kept secrets of Planner, number one, at the bottom here, when you're talking about comments, when you add a comment, So I'm going to add a comment here. Submitted to engineering review. If I can type, there you go, and click send. The people that are assigned this will now get a notification via email that there's been a comment, and those comments stay as a history for that task. So this is where you can have that back and forth conversation and be able to track the what's been going on with that task. And people are actively notified when there's new comments added to them. So there's your commenting thing. Is that what you were talking about, the conversation around a task?
Well, that was. So you're saying if you assign me a task and then I hit reply my email, say I'm stuck, I'm waiting for a meeting, that will go back into this task.
Yes. So this, well, if you, not for a meeting notification. So in Outlook.
Not for a meeting. That was okay. You've assigned me a task and I say I'm waiting to meet Joe Smith. Okay. That, and so the whole commentary is in this.
Correct. Yeah, it stays with this task and you can see the entire history of it. So another really ingenious use that I've seen with Planner is doing recruiting and hiring, because I'm a recovering HR professional. I used to be in human resources, and tracking all of my candidates, and what stage they were at when we were doing mass hiring for engineers at the time. Yeah, it was really difficult. So our phases, our buckets across the top were, here's our candidates. Have they done did we get their resume? Did we do their background check? First interview, second interview, those were the phases that were across the top. And the teams that were, we had this tool at the time, they could talk about, what they liked about that candidate or didn't like about that candidate. Because when you start interviewing hundreds of people, sometimes makes it really difficult to, it's like, was that the guy with the yellow shirt or was that the lady, you can't remember, they all merged together after a while.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's another kind of, so that running commentary was how you could track what their impressions of the candidate were, and asynchronously. So I can go in and do mine while somebody else is doing theirs and not have to have meeting after meeting after meeting reviewing candidates. So but that's where those comments come in, and they're like huge. So that's the first one. The other one, I think, is the labels. This is the other one that people don't really use enough. And labels, there's 25 different labels for each of your boards. So a planner board is this collection of tasks that we have, and they can be customized for whatever you want. They don't have to be pink, red, yellow, green. Let's say this one is, this one it could be a different phase that this one's in, or it could be what team's working on this one. Or I've seen it with the Agile project management methodology where they use it for the level of effort. So when they're starting to figure out, what's in our next round of tasks, what is the level of effort for this, so they can kind of weight them and work with them. So are you using those? Do you use the labels?
We have used the labels, yes.
What do you use them for?
Well, we actually have a methodology. Have you heard of, well, you probably haven't heard. As a company, we have a company methodology called Traction. Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Basically, it's a company methodology which allows your companies to scale and streamline at the same time. Okay, and we track all our IDSs, all of our issues in these planner tasks.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, it's a good reference point of a good conversation.
Yeah, because these are a different way to categorize them. You can only have your tasks in one bucket at a time, but you can use these to create different ways to sort and view, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. So I'm going to just create a couple of them. Let's do crucial on this one. I'm going to add a label for low impact. Let's make that yellow. And if I wanted to start using those, instead of grouping them by bucket, upper right hand corner, you can kind of look at the different ways that you can view your planner. So they're not just by bucket. I can look at it by assigned to. So the best kept secret of planners, everything is drag and drop. I can move and track, this one's not assigned to somebody. Let's say Deborah's going on vacation and I need to reassign her task. Just by simply dragging and dropping them, they take them out of her bucket and put them in somebody else's bucket, which is great. Then you have the progress. So you have let's say this one's been completed. This one is now started. I've started these again. easily updating them just by dragging and dropping them. Due date's a little bit weird because the buckets are driven by the data that's already here. So let's say this one's due tomorrow instead, whatever the random date is. So I'm going to make this due 17th. All right. Now that I have one, it did not save it. 17th. Should save it. All right. Demos, I have no control over. There should be a bucket that says tomorrow. This week, next week, it'll create those buckets, and then you can add them to, let's say, let's make this one due today and see if it'll do it. Today is the 16th. And notice that I'm not having to save. It should save it now. See, now there's a today bucket, so I can move these into today. But until you have a task that's in a time frame, it won't create the bucket for you. And then you have the labels. So here's those labels. Again, just dragging and dropping, I can add them. And you can have different labels for different things. So I'm just going to use a couple of the colors here. And you can have multiple labels on the same task. And just by dragging and dropping them from one label, one bucket to another, it reassigns them. And it'll take it out of the bucket that you dragging it from and add it to, or one label it'll unassign one label and assign the other label, but it doesn't reassign all of them. So notice that it just changed this one to low impact purple. So using these little drag and drops for updating your tasks, I think is one of the best kept secrets, and not just going by the planner board that they give you when you're looking at it. Okay. And then to your point, you said earlier, it's like when somebody assigned me a task, how do I know? How do I know that what's going on with that? So as the owner of the plan, you can set up the plan settings. And when I do this, you can create a background so it's not just so white on white if you like those. Some of these are a little bit busy for my taste, but some people like them. They're just like, I can't see the forest for the trees for some of these.
Okay.
But
so here's a question. One thing someone did do, they didn't like Planner, and they ended up using SharePoint lists or tasks. Have you ever seen this?
Yes,
where
and
people just don't want to do Planner. It just doesn't cut it. Or is that what's your response to that?
I always use the best tool for the job, because one of the things that they've again been talking about for Planner for a long time was being able to add custom fields or things that you want to track on your tasks. They don't have that yet. You also don't have security as far as, I'm the owner of the plan and I can assign the tasks and you can only update your own tasks. Everybody in the planner board has the exact same permission. So somebody can come in, wipe out the whole thing, and there's no control over that, and there's no history, and there's no recovery of that. So if that's the level of control that you're needing, SharePoint lists are beautiful. And people, they're like, oh, Microsoft List, they rebranded it a few years ago, and it's something new, and it's been around for 20 years, as SharePoint List. So I'm with you on that. I do like it. It again, use the right tool for the job, for sure.
So a question has just come in. Where does Planner run out of gas and you go into project?
Where is Planner what?
So when Planner runs out of gas, when do you move into project?
I think that's when, if you're looking for tracking dependencies and timelines and project timelines and resource management, that's not Planner. Planner is supposed to be something that's easy, and it's a collaborative tool. It's not supposed to be real strict project management. So if you're needing all of that control, that's when Planner is not the right tool.
Right. Okay. Got it. Now, and also licenses costs as well. Like Planner does not have the licenses. Yeah. If you're very price conscious, okay, project might be a little, needs to be in the budget.
Yeah, project is going through a lot of transformation right now, and I'm waiting to see where it all falls out, because Microsoft is kind of moving the needle right now. They had Project Web Online, then they had PWA, they had PWO, they have all of the different iterations of it, and it's still not web friendly the way that we would think it is, or it could be. And I'm looking to see, they're doing a lot of work in that space right now. Yes. I need to go back and watch the Ignite session. I again haven't had time through the holidays to go back and watch all of the stuff I wanted to catch up on from Ignite. But there's supposed to be a really good session on Ignite about that.
Right. Understood.
Yeah. Cool. Great questions.
Okay. Yes. This is I'm putting you on the spot, but that's what you get when you've got a live show.
I love it. Keeps me on my toes. That's great.
Well, I was just, the abbreviations better than me, actually. I know PWA. I've never heard of the PWA one.
Yeah, there was Project Web App. There was Project Online. There was it's gone through a lot of iterations. And
so question come in for Planner, right? So I mentioned, of course, I mentioned Monday.com. Monday, which that allows obviously external people. How easy is it for a planner to work with people outside your organization?
I don't believe yet that's a really good option, because the external, you're letting people in. What people don't understand is that Planner is part of your Office 365 toolbox in your tenant. And I don't think they have that figured out. Like, SharePoint, they figured out how to kind of segregate that and make it externally facing. And Teams, they've integrated that. I don't know that they've gotten that to that level in Planner yet.
So it's almost a bit like, hang on a minute, if you can you can insert Planner into Teams.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to show you that too, because that's one of my other favorites.
Now, if the Teams is an external one, does that work? Does it work with that then?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know, because external people don't. Depends on your settings. How much you're allowed to share. There's a lot of little switches and checkboxes that have to be set up for external sharing, and many different variations. But Planner can be added to a tab, and that's what I'm questioning. I want to go in and check that and see.
Right. Okay. All right. Carry on, and I'll interrupt you in the next question.
No problem. All right. So notifications, if you want to know, if you don't want to sit here and babysit Planner all day long, the nice thing about it is you can turn on the notifications. And as an owner of a Planner, I always set up by default, send an email to the group when a task is assigned or completed, so people are aware of it. Now, each person can go in and change their personal settings for things. How often do you want to be notified when there's stuff happening in Planner? Because Planner starts to nag you. It kind of becomes your mom. The Planner, it'll say, you have tasks due this week, you have tasks due today, you have tasks that are overdue, and starts sending you notifications via email that you have stuff that you need to get done. So the setting up the notifications, if you're like, don't want your mama nagging you, you can turn some of those off if you need to for yourself. But I think by not turning it on by default, then people may not even know and understand and know that stuff's happening without their knowledge. So I leave it up to them to turn it off for themselves.
Right. Okay.
Very cool. And then I'm going to show you this, and I want to show you the Teams part of it. So my favorite thing in here is the assign to me, because if I have multiple plans, I don't want to have to go to 20 different plans to figure out what I need to get done today. And there's two places you can do that. First of all, you can centralize them here in Planner. And so this is the assign to me, and you can see now my options are for grouping them by plan. So here's each of the tasks that I have to get done by plan. There is by progress. So regardless of what plan it's in, it's like, okay, I need to get this one started. I finished that one. I can just drag and drop to update my progress regardless of which plan it's in. Here's my due dates again. So it's like, all right, I need to get this done today. I need to get this done today. And then priority. So these are important. This one's urgent. This one's low. Again, one big roll up of everything that is in my planner. But on top of that, you have to do. And if you haven't explored to do, one of the things I love about to do is it's also available on my phone. So all of your apps, and Microsoft kind of likes to hide them now where everything's at. So I'm going to hit this little all apps button. go to do. I'm sorry.
Am I correct with to do? You can assign other people tasks.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So why would you do that? Like, why would I want to complete your tasks?
It's reassigning them. Again, it's supposed to be a collaborative tool. So being able to say, delegate things out, or maybe you're the one that's in charge of the project or I don't have time for this. Again, it's a lot of trust with Planner, because again, anybody can go in and delete things if they don't, without any kind of history, or, you can capture it in Excel to get that snapshot at that point in time, but you can't go back and see what was the planner looking like 3 weeks ago, which is some of the benefits of using a SharePoint list if you need it for that.
Right.
Cool. So if you haven't explored To Do, we've got some pop-ups. And by the way, these pop-ups, read them. Microsoft is evolving these all the time. I just closed it, but make sure you read these, because they new features. That's how they let you know what's happening since you've been in a specific tool. So in here, your tasks under Planned, these are all of the tasks that are coming from Planner. And you can see these are coming from the event plan, the Market project tracking. So even from my phone, I can go into Planner or into Do and see exactly what I have to get done today. And you can prioritize them by adding them to your day. So this is the My Day view. These are the 3 things that I have that are priorities. So this is kind of that top 10 checklist that I used to put on my desk and handwrite. This is all the stuff that is my high level that I know I need to get done on a specific day. And by right-clicking, you can add them to my day and say, these are the ones, I need to get done this week, but these are the ones I'm actually going to prioritize today. So if you're not using My Day and not using To Do with Planner, you're kind of missing a key piece. Cool?
Yep.
Now Teams, there's the other one. So Teams, again, this is a collaborative tool. When you create a plan, it creates an Office 365 group. It doesn't necessarily create a team, but you can always add a team to a plan. So if you've created a plan and now you want all the bells and whistles that come with Teams, you can add your plans to a channel in Teams. So here's that same Mark8 project team that we were just looking at. You can add tabs to the top. So I always tell people, when you're creating your team is who needs to work together. The channels are what are they working on? So what are their conversations? What are they trying to get done? And then the tabs across the top are the tools that they're going to use in order to get that done. So if I wanted to, here's that design team. If I need to add that project planner board, so I'm going to add a tab. And they love to change this little icon. Now it's purple, and it was, planner is green, tasks is and now it's pink and purple. I don't know why they're doing this, but so task by planner and To Do. If you want to create a plan, you can, but you can also add an existing plan. So here's that same project plan we were just looking at. So if your work group focuses their time in Teams and not necessarily in Planner, you can add that same planner board. But here's my favorite view of this board, or that they don't have in Planner, and I don't know why. They've got this list view that works a lot like a SharePoint list. And why I love this is because I can select multiple items now. Little caution, in most of your list-based tools in Microsoft 365, to select things, you have to click the little circle on the left-hand side, or the checkbox. But if you do that, that actually marks it as complete. So if you want to select multiple tasks, I'm just going to select one, hold the control key down, and now I can reassign, I can change the progress, I can change the due date, and that's the big one for me. I don't want it just this week or next week. I want it on a specific day. I want this due by Thursday. So I'm going to click Save on that, and that one task looks like it's having some issues, but that should update all of them all at once. So if things get behind, they're late, I don't have to go into each one of them and reassign them. I can go in here and mass update them, change their bucket, change their labels, update their due dates, their priority. All my favorite things right here in this list view. Now, why they don't have this in Planner, I don't know. It's like, this is the best view when you're trying to update a lot of things at the same time. Did you know about this one?
I did not know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. I love when I teach people that I respect and are, I like you, Peter, that extremely knowledgeable. And I love when I have the opportunity to show you something new, and they're little feathers in my cap, I guess.
Some of this I'm just testing myself actually on my other screen. That's why my eyes are going up. It's interesting on that front. Question. Okay, someone's asking, what's the difference between tasks and planner and To Do?
Okay, so tasks come from many different places, but one of them is Outlook. And again, another best kept secret. If you right click and mark your emails or for follow-up, or even people, you can go in and say, I need to follow up with them this week. And let's say I go in and maybe I need to talk to Christine next week. I'm going to follow up with her next week as well. Anything you mark in your Outlook also becomes a task.
This is like a flag, is it? A flag?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So here's next week. Here's Christine. If they have that marked. So these are my tasks. This is my to-do list, but they're also, here's just the tasks. When you mark them that way, here's the to-do list. And if you have it set up in Planner, or I'm sorry, in To-Do, it will, you kind of have to turn it on when you go in there. Let me go back to To-Do. The settings for that, you have to turn on when you flag your emails. See how it doesn't show up here? Like, I'll leave this under.
Are you using your email now more in the browser than the Outlook client?
I use the client because I like to be able to drag and drop things. That's the best kept secret of Outlook. I can take anything from my inbox and simply say, I'm just going to drag this to people and convert it to a person. I can drag it to my task, convert it to a task, and drag it to my, so you see how it took that email and it converted it to a contact, probably not for this particular contact, but if it was a person, right? Now, all those, they show up here. I have had salespeople that are like, can I hug you for telling me about that? Because they didn't know that you could just drag and drop an Outlook. And I have a whole series on my YouTube channel about how to triage your inbox and managing your inbox, because all of the things that come in, and I have too many accounts, frankly. I don't know about you, but I have TML disease, too many logins, and the desktop version, I can pull them all together.
Okay.
So
you can tell you're the vocabulary of a consultant here, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. When you have different clients and they all give you, because you have to be able to log in, you have to be able to, communicate with them, and you've got to log in, log out. One of the few places that I can see all of my calendars in one place is Outlook, because I can pull them in from different accounts.
Yep. Yeah. So one thing I think you're obviously of a similar age to myself, like 25. Younger generation people are all in the web. Okay. Well, I do notice like older generation, like myself and you, we're much more thick client, like Word. Very rarely would I ever edit a Word document in the cloud. Much to the surprise of any of the younger generation, the younger workers.
This is a battle I fight every day, especially with just in managing my son's brewery with it. If his wife can't do it on her phone, she doesn't do it. It drives me crazy. And it's like, okay, there are other ways or smarter ways to work. And, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but, as far as social media, but she is quintessential, wants to use Google Sheets and Google Doc. I'm just going to share my Google Drive. And what they don't understand is that when you share it from yours and you share it from yours and you share it from yours, there's no central place. Yeah. And now, if somebody wins the lottery and runs away, our stuff is missing because it wasn't in, there's no one place where all the stuff is. Just because you shared it with me doesn't mean I have any kind of rights to it long term. And then I can't find it if you haven't shared it. So if they were to put it in a central place now, they've recently moved to Microsoft 365 because of that. Some new partners came in and they're like, we're using Microsoft. I'm like, oh, thank God, because I've been, trying to get them to move. But yeah, it's being web-based and browser-based because it's so portable from any device that you're on. People tend to, if they feel the need to be online all the time, then, they're going to go to those web-based or cloud-based applications.
Yep.
But I know too much. I'm a, Office master. I know what all these tools can do when you use the desktop version. And, the web versions just don't do it all.
You could say the younger generation, they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a bit like someone says, oh, I love my Apple, my iMac. Okay, someone, but yes, because you don't know any better. You never used the PC.
Yeah. Well, and again, if that's where your comfort zone is, Microsoft's supposed to be agnostic, but it's not the same. I had a client came to me, they're like, can you teach us PowerPoint? I'm like, sure, all day long. And I showed up and they all had Macs. I'm like, oh, it can't be that different. And I'm like, oh, it's totally different. I couldn't even continue the class because I was like, I have no idea. Your menus are all different. So yeah.
Yeah.
But the browser's the browser. It's always the same. Doesn't matter what device you're on if you're using those. But, I just always think it's funny when people are like, well, I have the PC inside the Mac. I'm like, then why didn't you just buy a PC?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like a VM or something like that. Yes, I have seen that. I've seen that. That makes no sense. Why not overcomplicate your technology stack?
Exactly. And everything's hard enough as it is without adding a whole nother layer. But, Macs, I'm not bashing them at all. They're great tools, but they're really meant for creative. They were built for creative people. The PCs were built for productivity.
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just because it's the business circles where I'm working in, like banks, finance. We don't really work with the media companies. As a result, very rare I come across Macs rolled out in a corporate workplace.
Yeah. And myself as well. And I have people ask me if I know any trainers that train on Mac. I'm like, I don't. And I can't even keep up with all the PC-based stuff that I want to know, let alone all of the Mac-based stuff. I can't keep up with it all. So I'm choosing to focus. So.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the demo?
No, those were the big ones. Those were my big ones. So I'd love to know what people's favorites were. Aha moments. Those are always helpful to me.
So someone said, right, planner. Okay, planner and tasks. They're all. Someone's asking, are they all actually in the store? Yes, they are. They're all actually in the store on Android and iPhone as well. I've got all of this stuff installed on my iPhone and on my Android. So if they're on your Android, they're going to be in the iPhone store. Someone has mentioned about, is everything you've shown, is that compatible on an Apple? I would say yes. I've never, because we're not using weird fonts or anything, are we?
Yeah, no, everything is compatible because I've done everything in the browser other than the Outlook piece. Everything is in the browser. So it doesn't matter if you're using Chrome or if you're using Edge or using, Safari. I don't know how, sometimes I've seen some glitchy things with Safari, but it just all depends on which browser you're using. And it's supposed to be browser agnostic, and they're building the Chromium technology into those, I think, is why it's so compatible across all of the different browsers.
Okay. Someone's asking, importing Excel. I'm assuming importing Excel. So I'm assuming someone is using Excel file for their tasks and they want to basically go a little enterprise. Is there an import feature into Planner?
To import, I've heard whispers about that, but it's not there yet. It would be nice to be able to do that because then you can convert them. But you're making me think about it now. I don't think you can with SharePoint lists. So if you wanted to import it into a SharePoint list, that could be a tool if you wanted to use it that way.
If you're going to do that, you could import it into a SharePoint list, okay, and then have a flow into Planner.
Exactly. So that's your same wavelength. That it's like you can, when a new item is created you can do that in Planner too, actually. What I would do, now I'm starting to think through it, upload that Excel spreadsheet and then there's a flow that when you add a new item to an Excel sheet in the cloud, that it will create a plan for you. It'll create a plan or task for you. And then I would just delete them and then re-add them and put them back in. Or if you change them, that flow needs a trigger. Is it added? Was it updated? Was it changed? So if you change the one, even in the Excel spreadsheet, and just maybe have one column that you have a yes or something like an X that you add to it, then it will add it in there. It's kind of a backwards way to go about it, but you could.
Yeah, we've actually tried to do with a client from a third-party app assigning tasks in Planner, and the API in Graph doesn't allow it. So we could push that into a SharePoint list, and then we had a flow pushing it into Planner.
Yeah, so when we're talking about Flow, just Microsoft called it Flow. Now they rebranded it to Power Automate. Yep. So for those that may not be as familiar, so Power Automate is, again, they love to hide them. The Power Automate here, if you're curious, about the ones that work with Planner. I actually had one that Microsoft used to send us emails for requests for events that we were hosting for them. And they were the exact same title in each one of them. And every time I got an email from them, it would create a Planner task in our Planner board, which was really cool. So the templates in here, if you search for them, search for Planner. Here's one for Outlook. So you can see from the little icons, and these are the ones that are trusted. So if you see anything from the Flow community, the Power Automate community, so again, it's evolved. It used to be called Flow, and so that was the Flow community. Now it's called the Power Automate community. Or from Microsoft, you can trust those. There are some third-party flows in here that you may or may not be able to trust if they are sustained by the provider of that flow. So you can be confident in those at least.
Mhm.
So here's create a planner task for selected item in SharePoint. I know there's one in here for Excel, or you could build it from scratch, but there's one in here for Excel.
Okay.
That's a good question. And you can map when you create the flow, it'll say, what pieces do you want to go where? The only thing that I have not been able to figure out, and I will definitely defer to my Power Automate community people like April Dunham, David Warner, Hugo Bernier, how do you create the checklist? That's what I wanted to do. It's like every time I create it, I want to create the checklist too. And I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I'm just not as savvy as those guys.
Right. Okay. So we're coming up to the hour. We've got about 1 minute left on this. So thank you for your time. This is actually very interesting. Actually, on this, there's a ton. This could almost be a good two or 3 hour session. Actually.
Yeah, easily. I do what I call power hours, and we spend a whole hour just going through. Here's things that you should know about Planner or to do. I could do whole day in OneNote or Outlook. So those are the fun ones for me.
Right. Okay. Where do you think, in terms of the roadmap, where do you think Planner is going to be going? That's my final question. First
of all, hopefully they will make them personal, so you can have what they're calling roster plans. That's been highly requested for 4 or 5 years now, and being able to hopefully create some custom fields. I want to call them fields in the cards, so that you can customize them a little bit. We have a lot of capability for customization and creating those cards and other technologies. I don't know why they're not building that into Planner as an option. Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and I will hopefully see you at another community event actually in the near future. Thank you. Are you going to be in DC? I need to look at my schedule actually on this. I wouldn't mind going there actually, but yes. Okay. Yeah, I was talking with Tom Daly to do that. Yeah. Very cool. I'd love to see you there, and definitely we'll have to do dinner and come out here, and you can go to my son's brewery and get some beers. Yes. Okay. All right. Thanks very much. Good stuff. Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.